What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. I wanted to get into one of the top 100 lists that we're going to see this offseason because there was a particular player of interest in Aaron Rodgers that has a ranking that even I'm surprised about, right? Now, this is Pete Prisco from NFL analyst for CBS NFL Sports. He does this list annually. He mentioned, just so you guys have context about how this list was ranked, this is my list based on evaluations as well as some conversations with some league personnel. Mostly, though, it's my list. So there's not a bunch of, it's not an open panel survey or anything like this. It's just one guy's opinion. So obviously there's a lot that you can debate about this. But for where he has our guy ranked, for one, we only had 4 players. Shouldn't say only. We had 4 players make this top 100 list. Aaron Rodgers wasn't even the top guy. That was Sauce Gardner, I believe, at the 12th spot. Aaron Rodgers takes spot number 20, though. And when you take a look at Pete Prisco's list last year compared to this year, Aaron Rodgers actually makes a jump up about 20 spots, I think it is. He was ranked 29th, or he jumps up 9 spots. He was ranked 29th in 2023 on this list, which, keep in mind, was based on the 2022 season, which was the final year that Rodgers was with the Packers. Everybody said he was on the downward spiral of his career, right, after having an MVP to that prior. And then when you talk about that 2022 season, he's working with a ton of rookies, right? He has Bakhtiari that's beaten up and a few other line issues. And, it's just a ton going on. The offseason issues with will he be there, will he not? There was a ton of issues. You set that aside, though. If you just look at a 5-year period, keep this in your mind going into seeing where he ranked above and below certain guys at. In the last 5-year span, and I know this is a what have you done for me lately league, but just so we're getting kind of a decent picture here. In the last 5 years, essentially Aaron Rodgers has won 2 back-to-back MVPs. He's had a downward season, and then he's coming off of his Achilles injury. And once again, we're seeing him in off-season practices now, which much like we saw last year, he's out there, dissecting the defense, as you hear many of our all-pro top caliber guys on defense mentioning. No-look passes. He's having no problems getting any and everybody involved in essentially whatever play he wants to get to maximize, damaging the weakness in the defense. He can. And all of this is coming from a top 3, top 5 defense in back-to-back years. So we obviously know what elite quarterback play would look like when it comes to breaking down our defense, because it's happened so few times, and generally when it has, it's been by the likes of a Lamar, it's been by the likes of a Patrick Mahomes, right? So keep that in mind. Now, Aaron Rodgers right now is ranked 20th on this top 100 list. There's only 4 quarterbacks rated higher than him. Patrick Mahomes at number 1, Josh Allen at number 6, Joe Burrow at number 15, Lamar Jackson at number 16, and I have zero issue with any of those guys. I think I personally don't, right? There's enough conversation pieces, and they're all young enough to picture why you would rank a guy like this higher right now than Aaron Rodgers, factoring in his injury and everything, right? Patrick Mahomes, obviously the cream of the crop, probably the active player with the most Super Bowl rings as of right now, at least on the offensive side, I imagine. Josh Allen, perennial AFC championship game contender, lethal through the air, through the ground, rocket arm. Joe Burrow, probably the closest thing outside of Rodgers to somewhat of that pure passer, pure pocket passer, field general type guy. He's just going to completely dissect and decimate a defense all through the pocket. And then Lamar Jackson, lethal on the ground, improving at a rapid rate as a pocket passer in and of itself. And he's coming off of his second MVP season for himself in his career, right? You take a look at the list below him, though, and I don't know what the rankings here are, but just to fire off some of the names, C.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, right? And I think the names that would shock some people would be C.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert, Dak, and Jalen Hurts, right? And maybe you can argue Trevor, Tua. I would probably say a guy like Tua and Jared Goff could be up in that conversation. These are guys that I think have somehow mastered in a short amount of time the schemes that they're in, they're perfect fits. The head coach and OCs know how to perfectly bring in weapons to support and enhance the talents, and the quarterbacks obviously can run that scheme at a very, very high level. So that in and of itself, excuse me, that in and of itself is a big deal, right? It's that same Brock Purdy type effect. Outside of the 49ers, would he be a great quarterback? Who knows? But with them knowing what they're doing, him playing the way he can, he has to be considered elite, right? Which, by the way, is a crying shame that he wasn't even on this top 100 list. But I digress. Then you have C.J. Stroud, rookie phenom, best quarterback rookie season probably in NFL history, and really, this is just one of those situations where I never want to fully buy into a guy after just the 1 year. Can he keep up that level of consistency? Is there a major drop-off? Guys finally have a full year's worth of film. What's the supporting cast continuing to look like? But he looks like he could be one of those dudes. Elevated his supporting cast, completely flipped the trend of what was happening with that Texans franchise in just a single year. But I'm not going to put him up there with any of those names that Aaron Rodgers is mentioned with. Then you have Justin Herbert. I think he's a great quarterback. The team success just hasn't followed him, right? So he's probably closer to following the Aaron Rodgers career arc as a guy who's great, extremely talented, but maybe can't get his team over the edge. And then you have Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts. And these are guys where, in Prescott's situation, I just seen a stat comparison from our father-in-law, and he was showing Dak Prescott having eerily similar stats to Patrick Mahomes, and we know he's just coming off the Super Bowl and stuff, so you know what that's essentially alluding to. But two very distinct, different situations. Dak Prescott has a top 5 arguable wide receiver in his pocket in CeeDee Lamb. Plenty of other weapons to help himself out. And then Patrick Mahomes really has an aging Travis Kelce, who had a down season and didn't really turn things on until he got to the playoffs. And then outside of that, you don't really have anything else. He had Butterfingers left and right. He's getting a returning wide receiver that has a ton of speed but can't really catch or make a ton of plays happen in the big moments. Generally, what I'm saying is Patrick Mahomes' supporting cast was abysmal last year, and somehow he still won the Super Bowl, right? It was pretty much anybody else's best chance in the AFC to overthrow that team. But outside of that, I don't really feel that this is too crazy to say on this list. Now, maybe in the spectrum of everything, right, 20 in and of itself is crazy, considering you haven't seen this guy in nearly 2 years. And the last year that you've seen it, again, was the final Packers year, where there was a lot of things going on to contribute to the downtrend, which I don't think I even remember calling out the thumb injury that he was dealing with all year. So a lot of this is relying on the fact that anytime that we have seen Aaron Rodgers, he's looked generally great, right? That year aside, again, 2 back-to-back MVPs, everything you've heard out of Aaron Rodgers since he's joined the Jets in these off-season practices has been great. The one preseason series that we got to see out of him, I think he actually played 2, but nonetheless, that one looked pretty well as well in those preseason. Not much you can take from there, but it does get me to thinking when I try to put things in perspective. In this sort of perspective, I think it makes a ton of sense that expectations should be very, very high. I've tried to temper them myself, right? I haven't put out, but in conversations I've had with other Jets fans and such, I put out the floor and the ceiling for us being like 9 wins to 11 or 12. And now I'm starting to kind of think in my head, realistically, what team just outright outmatches us in any position category. And you can't really mention any, right? You take a look at team rankings. The Jets are up there generally consistently in the top 3 to top 5, again, on paper. And one of the things I am intrigued to see, though, because this is just one guy's list, but Last year, I believe the NFL's top 100 list came out around July 24th, July 25th, right? So I'm interested to see what the difference in that list versus this one is, because the NFL top 100, keep in mind, is based on the players ranking other guys at their positions and such. So what does the analyst think versus what are the players thinking about a lot of these guys? Ultimately, though, let me know what you guys think about this list. Is it crazy? Where do you think he should realistically be landing on just the quarterback hierarchy? And if you want to rank him as a whole in the NFL, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.